and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the Dark Days Tarot. I was sent this deck by Wren McMurdo Brignac earlier this week, and it's the second tarot deck of Wren's that I've reviewed. Some of you may remember that I also reviewed the Mother Tarot. You can see this in my previous videos, and a lot of these cards feature on my Instagram regularly if you follow my Insta. So today I'm going to be looking through Wren's other deck, the Dark Days. As you can see, in contrast to the Mother Tarot, which is very colourful, the Dark Days is obviously much darker and is monochrome in colour. Now, I've already opened this deck and found that it was in a rather strange order, so I have reordered it for this video purposefully. I'm going to show you the box. As you can see, it's the same size and shape as the Mother Tarot, so the cards will indeed be square. The Dark Days Tarot has a beautiful black and white image on the top of the box, and lovely clouds and birds and mountains, as well as the sun there. This is a 78 card tarot deck. It features a guidebook. It has been illustrated and created by Wren, but the guidebook's also been written by Emily Mundy as well as Wren. So we'll have a look now. Upon opening the box, you can see the sides of the inner box decorated with beautiful flowers and crystals and swords and potion bottles and cups to represent the 4 minor arcana suits. The guidebook I've popped on top here, which we'll have a look at, and the cards are here, so we'll pull them out so you can see. Inside the box, at the base of the box, you can see here there are some birds, and in the top of the inside, the inside of the top box is a lovely moon. So you can see here that every aspect of design has been considered when making this beautiful deck. I'll just pop the box back here so you can see it in the base of the video. We'll have a look now at the guidebook. So as you can see, the guidebook is also monochrome. It's a lovely chunky book, and it's the same size as the cards. It's written by Wren and Emily, as I mentioned, and the contents shows that there is a dedication, which is an interesting one, acknowledgements, an introduction section, a guide on getting started and some tips, a guide to the suit, a guide to the numbers, and a guide to card orientation, and then you've got the major arcana cards followed by the minor arcana cards. So we have here that the Dark Days Tarot is dedicated to the moon, and this is all about the moon phases and the lunar cycles, as Wren explains in her introduction. She explains about how to choose spreads. You can do single cards or 3 card spreads. There aren't many spread ideas there, but she does give you a really lovely pictorial guide on how to shuffle, to pull your cards, and how to contemplate and reflect, and then tips on how to study the tarot. I do love that Wren has stated that there are no rules in tarot. It's more of an art than a science, and that you do follow your mind and take your time. She's explained how tarot is comprised, and then she's explained about how the major and the minor arcanas differ, as well as explaining about the suits themselves and the numbers. I really like that because it gives people, especially new readers and people that have not read before, just a basic guide to the meanings of the cards, so they can learn them quite quickly. Now, these cards are square, as I mentioned, rather than rectangular like most tarot cards. So there's a north and east, a south and a west element of the card that you can take into consideration. Wren has then put a picture of each of her cards on the left and a guide to the card on the right. And that goes right through the major arcana and the minor arcana, all the way through to the end of the book. So it's a really nice little guidebook. I will pop that to one side, and we'll have a look at the cards themselves. As you can see, the cards have got symmetrical backs in black and white, and they are edged beautifully in stunning silver. Very, very shiny there in the light, as you can see. I have, as I mentioned earlier, reorganized these cards, as when I opened the deck, they were in an unusual order. So I've put them into Major Arcana and then the 4 suit. So we'll have a look through now so you can see. Oh, before I do that, I'll just show you the card quality is really nice and thick. It's really chunky. It's just superb deck. So we start off with the Fool. I love this card. I love that all the Major Arcana cards have got white backgrounds and black and grey, obviously monochrome illustrations. I love that Wren's got the lunar cycles in the background there, and I love that this card features a baby, and I also really like the fonts used on the titling and the numbering of each of these cards. It's just beautifully done. So there's the Fool. And then we have the Magician, and as you can see instantly, for those of you who read tarot, these cards are not traditional. Not in shape nor in style. So the characters that would normally feature, the traditional characters and figures that would normally feature in a tarot deck aren't there, but instead you've got the symbology. So you've got this knowledge here with the book and the crystals and the wand. I love these cards, they're so beautifully done. We then have the High Priestess. I really like how her hair is full of faces and figures and stars, and her body has got this lovely vine, these roses growing through her, and then she's got the moon literally in her hand, like the fertile sort of mother figure. I think it's just beautifully drawn. Then we have the Empress, which is really dark and interesting for me. She looks like a pot plant with bunting for some reason. This is what I saw to begin with. And then I saw sort of the flowers under the earth and the trees here. Everything's just done really nicely and thoughtfully, but there is so much detail going on in the image when you look close up. There's so much to read and interpret there. And then we have the Emperor. Again, quite a feminine card actually, even though I think it's a male depicted in this, but I sort of saw this card at first and I can see the rainbow. Obviously it's not in colour, but it's in monochrome in the mountains. But I saw this as a giant cake to begin with a figure on top, like a wedding cake, and then I realised no, it's a hill made up of many layers, and it can be read so differently. So I really like this. Here's the Hierophant, which you can see the face in there if you look closely. It's like a great big swirl of clouds, and then a mermaid. It's very interestingly done, very different, but I like that the Hierophant being that sort of wisdom and guide is, to me, almost like a godly guide in the clouds there. A bit like that Simba moment on The Lion King where you see the Mufasa looking down from the clouds. Anyway, then we have the Lovers, which is interesting because the mermaids and the legs all intertwined, and the roses, really nicely done. And then the Chariot, which is a bicycle. Lovely. And then Justice, of course, being the scales. But I like that these scales almost are like hammocks for the ladies to sit in there and for them to balance together. I like that. The Hermit, I love this sort of snail but being a person inside your shell sort of thing. It just works. And the Wheel, beautifully done, very yin yang, and obviously you've got the lunar cycles there again. I really love these designs. Strength, featuring that lion, but actually if you look closely it almost looks like it's got a sheep's sort of, I might be wrong there, but it is a mane, but it could be depicted differently. And then we've got the Hanged rather than the Hanged Man or the Hanged Woman, and I always turn this card the right way up and you can see that they are perfectly happy. You can't actually see a face there, but the figure is perfectly happy. And then Death, which I love. I just like how they've done it. It's really cutely done, so well done, Wren. Temperance, that balance. And you've got the lunar cycles above her there, and the rose for the mouth, and the rainbow, and the water, and the mountains, everything being so balanced. And then the Devil, which I really like the picture because the flowers for the eyes, sat with the little fires around them, with the beautiful dress on. It's not like your typical devil, but it's that sort of addiction and the fall into what you want to do, and I don't know, it depicts a devil completely differently to me, and I like it. Then we've got the Tower being a scorched tree, and the lightning bolt rather than a building, so it's very much nature. And then we've got the Star, which I just think is beautiful, and the moon. Now this entire deck is dedicated to the moon, so this is like the card, if you will. And then we've got the sun. If you look closely, you can see all the roses in the sun there, and the leaves around the outside. Then judgment, which is quite eerie because it's almost like stepping up out of your grave to be judged, which is sort of about the card, but judgment is sort of looking at what you've done and deciding if it's good or if it's bad. And I like how they've done this. It feels quite heavenly, but almost a bit religious. And then we've got the world, which is just glorious. It's like a mermaid's beach ball. Moving on to the minor arcana. All the minor arcana cards are actually black with white details, a bit like the cover of the deck there. So the major arcana cards are all white with black details, and now we have the opposites. We've got the Ace of Wands, a beautiful card, as you can see. I love that the moon in the background is actually a face. And we've got the Two of Wands, the dancing through the flowers, that freedom. And then the Three of Wands with the tree and the moon. It's just beautifully done. And the Four of Wands. You can see like this celebration element here. And then the Five of Wands. Nicely done. The Six of Wands. See, these cards here, I think for people that haven't read tarot before, may be difficult to interpret. Seven of Wands, the moon for a face. I think it's really pretty. And the Eight. Now this is just gorgeous with the dandelion seeds just floating off. And the forest there. And the moon literally blowing them towards the forest. It's just beautifully. But Eight of Wands is all about speed. And to me, dandelion seeds actually flow quite smoothly and slowly. So anyway, Nine of Wands. It looks like a fire there, but with flowers. And then the Ten of Wands with that mountain and climbing the mountain, that overwhelming. So that works really well. And then we've got the Page. That messenger and the knight, and it's very Harry Potter for me, this. And then the Queen of Wands, which I think is beautiful because you don't see the figure, you see the arms and the hands and that sort of embracement and love. And then the King. It feels almost like bicep-y here, but it's biceps from the moon, if you will, like that strength of the moon. So yeah, definitely a moon-based deck. So anyone who's really into the moon, this deck's for you. In fact, I think it's going to pair perfectly with the Moonology Oracle, actually. So we've got the Ace of Cups, that hand gripping a cup, and the rainbow in the background. And then we've got the Two. Now this is such a lovely lover's card here, and it's so evenly done. Then the Three, having drinks and partying and gathering. And then the Four, which is beautifully done, that they're pouring the drink away, but they've got a drink in the hand. Just works. Five, nicely done. I love all the cups being upside down. I'm just looking for a cup that should be the right way up, but they are literally all the way down. Right, okay, now we've got the Six, which is really, you know those books of illusions? I'm sort of looking at this thinking, gosh, it does look like an optical illusion. Then the Seven and the Eight. How nice is that? And then the Nine, that happiness wish card. And then the 10, that contentment. And the rainbow's sort of there, but it's under the table, connecting them all. And then we've got the Page, which framed Little Mermaid there. And the Knight. Now for me, the first thing I saw obviously is a whale, and then there is a figure here, but he's riding a whale rather than a horse, and I like that heavy sort of duty. And then the Queen, and if you look carefully, you'll notice that this cup is actually shaped like a lady's uterus or womb, and it's very, very femininely done. I love it. The King, again, the hands embracing, but the hands being part of a mermaid's body. Then we've got the Ace of Swords, which is, you can see all the earth's layers here, and like the volcano going down and the hand gripping it, which is almost like gripping a tree root. It's beautifully done. The Two of Swords, nicely done. And the Three. Now this card usually depicts great sort of sorrow, and I can see that, but I can also see great release. Four of Swords, that exhaustment, that tired, sort of too much going on, nicely done. And the 5 with the arguments. And the 6, really beautifully done, that's sailing away. And the 7 with the deceit. And the 8, which is really different. And I like different. It works. And the 9 of Swords, you can really feel that sort of upset and anguish and nightmares and trauma. And the 10, all them stab wounds. Yeah, it's interesting. I love the Page of Swords. I like how the moon phases are almost in the mind there. And the Knight with these beautiful horses. And the Queen, which is interesting because it's like split into 2. That's a different sort of Queen. And then the King there being that eye and maybe a clock, I want to say, and the swords all around it and the fire and the flames. Really different to the traditional figures. Then we've got the Ace of Pentacles, beautifully done. I like the pentagram there. And the 2. And the 3. Teamwork. And the 4. And the 5. Now that's beautifully done. I like that the rain cloud just over them. And then the 6, which is nicely done. And I like the tree growing up under the table where they're working. And the 7. And the 8, that busy work. That's sewing if you... I like this. It really works for me. And the 9. Now that's such an interesting card with the chains. Really different to the traditional decks. And the 10 of Pentacles there with the house on the very top of the mountain and all these lovely flowers and pentagrams and the hills in the background and the moon right over the house. Interesting. And then we've got the Page and the Knight, and the Knight's on, I was going to say an alpaca, it's not, I want to say it's a stag. Really interestingly done. And the Queen, now this Queen here of Pentacles is featured on the box cover. And finally the King, all them pentacles making that mountain with the trees on the side and the roots and the mushrooms. Just really, really different and unique. Very, very different to the Mother Tarot, but has that same feeling of being a really, really unique deck that's really interesting to interpret. I wouldn't say it's for beginner readers, however the information in the guidebook would make it nice for beginners. I think it's really, really unique and different, and I can't wait for one to get started using this deck. It is stunning. Do you have the Dark Days Tarot? Will you be ordering the Dark Days Tarot? What do you think of it? Let me know. I'd love to hear in the comments. Thanks for watching and take care.